as with a goal of training outdoor educators and guides. I can't remember who the quote is attributed to, but there's this concept of when people understand something, when they know something, when they experience something, they begin to care for it. And over the years, a lot of people have pointed toward outdoor education, environmental education as a way to do that. And I think you as educators, guides, general public, parents, family members, I said my best clients are my families that come up here and visit me because they sort of have to listen to me. Well, sometimes they don't. But you can take knowledge and give people experiences where they'll walk away caring about Prince William Sound and hopefully then maybe advocating for some of the things that we all care about, primarily our mission of keeping Prince William Sound wild and clean for everybody to enjoy. So with that, it's a bit of experiment this year. We've started, this is sort of a half day of more focused on guide training, but for anybody really, outdoor educators, families, anybody is welcome to this. We are not streaming this live, but we are recording it, so these will be available on the website when our excellent William Melton and his crew get it up. And this symposium is made possible by generous support from the Exxon Valdez Oil Spill Trustee Council, the Prince William Sound Regional Citizens Advisory Council, the Oil Spill Recovery Institute, and the Prince William Sound Science Center. And then we also have many other individual sponsors and support. I know Pete Denmark was in here like at 8 this morning setting up tables by himself with Alaska Sea Kayakers. So it's a group effort, it's a team effort that makes this happen. So thank you to all of them, and thank you all for coming today. We'll have a couple sessions, and about 3 we'll have a break. One of the sessions at 2:30 we're going to go outside because the sun actually came out in Whittier, which is excellent, and we have to go outside when that happens. And then we'll come back for our last 3. So first I want to introduce Leigh Lubin of the Alaska Sea Grant will tell us a little more about today's format. Welcome, Leigh.
Hi, I'm Leigh Lubin with Alaska Sea Grant. I'm the Marine Education Specialist, and I will be co-emceeing with Paul. So one of the ideas that we had for this guide training day is to model best practices for natural history interpretation. So as you may or may not know, the drag and brag, taking your clients and just fire hosing them with information isn't the best technique for natural history guiding, nor is it really fun for guides. So for today, after many of the talks of our great scientists giving you lots of information, we'll have little activities that will get you out of your seat, get you talking a little bit, give you time to integrate the information, have some questions come up about them, and it will be an experiment and we'll see how it goes. But hopefully it will give you a little bit more to take away with you. And in that note, so I'm going to be the one that makes you a little bit uncomfortable at times sometimes. If it's too uncomfortable, you do not have to participate. Of course, it's challenge by choice. The first thing we need to do is do introductions, though. So what we'll do is, you can see that I have papers on the wall for winter, spring, summer, and fall. So your first task is to go to the corner, and if it's year-round, you're going to be in the aisle of the season you like best in Alaska. So you're going to have to get up out of your seats and move to a corner for a moment of which is your favorite season, summer, winter, fall, spring, or if you're just like, I love it all, you can be in the aisle. See, a little discomfort already. So once you're in your corner or in your aisle, your job will be to maybe pick someone you haven't met. I know a lot of people probably know each other in this community, but if you don't, pick someone you haven't met and share your name, where you live now, and where you grew up, or where you lived most recently before here. So go ahead and pick someone and you're just going to share with one other person in your corner. Starting to finish up that conversation because you'll get more. Okay, your next task. It's good, people are talkative. Your next task is going to be to choose the corner. If you can hear my voice, clap once. If you can hear my voice, clap twice. Okay, I'm glad everyone's talking. Now we're going to move it up a little bit more. So go to the corner of the part of the year that you work the most in. And if that's year-round, you're in the center. I know it's really hard to figure out what's going on. Then you can be in the, then you can, your work is your play. So when do you play the most? Yeah, if you're retired, it can be, you can lay down, or it can be where you were. And then can you click the next one? Oh. Okay. Now you're going to share your name and your favorite environment, whether that be marine, river, tundra, forest. I noticed that most people congregated in summer. So share your name, your favorite area to recreate or visit, and your interest in tourism. Okay, the next round that you'll move to. The next round that you'll move to is the time of year that you rest the most. Rest. Everyone's like, what do you mean rest? Is that part of my life? Once you get to this corner, if you don't hear my instructions, they're also on the board. You're going to share where you winter in air quotes, because some people, as you know, in Alaska don't actually winter here, and what you like to do for rest or relaxation. I'm Caroline. It's nice to meet you. Of course. Okay, this is the last switcheroo. The last switcheroo is going to be going to the season that you play the most in. That you play the most in. I know these rest and play questions are more confusing than the other ones. Where you play the most. What time of year you play the most? Hi. You're Janine. I only ask it every day was a great day up there. Yeah. Oh. I failed to say at this one, can you guys get into groups of 4 if you haven't already, and if you didn't read the board, this one you're sharing with the group of 4 your name and one thing you could teach and one thing you could learn. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can be, I can teach you how to bake. It is. So start finishing up your sharing, and then when you're complete, you can go back to your seat, and then Paul will pick it up from here. So I gave you all some cards, and they are small because that's what happens when you print them at home for reading. So we are going to do probably just 2 rounds. So in each group, each round, you're going to find someone that meets the category. If you haven't met them before, introduce yourself and say what species you are. So I did hand out cards in the same ratio they are in the sound. So you might not be able to find exactly what you need. So you might have to form groups of 3. So we can go, let's look at what the first one is. And you may need to get up, you may not. So find someone that has a different habitat than you and share what your mating community is, colonial, solitary, etc. So on the front side, it shows you what your habitat is, the first one. Find someone with a different one. Switch to the next one. So when you're complete, your next task, if I'm going too fast, let me know because I can't tell if you guys are just talking for fun, if you're still talking about this. Your next task is to find someone with a different nest, someone with a different nest type. Share what type of nest you guys each have, and then share a significance. On the back of the card, there's significance, random, and displays. So find someone with a different nest type than you are. So the 3 nest types are bowl, flat or none, and basic. You can switch slide. Oh, I have a thing, I forgot. Okay, so this one you won't actually move around because for time, but the different mating strategy, whether you were long-term, short-term pairs, this was a trick one because everyone in here as a seabird is a long-term mating pair. So that was a trick one that you guys don't get to participate in for timing. And then, oh, I forget that I can do this. So I'll spare you guys. We'll do this one instead of the one where you have to enact the mating strategy because we don't have time for that, or the displays on the back. So you can choose to do that. So the next one is find someone with the same food type and share what your foraging strategy is so that we can differentiate the different ones. And if you feel really excited, you can do the last one where you share what your display is and try to enact it. So you can choose whether you're sharing how you forage or pretending that you have the neck dexterity of a bird and can do the displays. So in the interest of time, go ahead and start finishing up and going back to your seats. We didn't have time to play all the reindeer games, but we had time for some of them. We never have time for all of them. You have to overplan. No, it's not your fault. You always have to overplan. And I'm going to do one thing once they sit down. So as you move back to your seats for the next presentation, we'll just close this one part. I did do this more or less in the ratios that David gave me for the birds in the sound. So anybody that was a kittiwake, could you stand up just to see the proportions? Kittiwakes, please stand up for a moment just to see the proportions. Those are all the kittiwakes? Okay. Kittiwakes, sit down, and then go marbled murrelets, stand up. And then sit down, and then we have pigeon guillemots. And I actually overdid the pigeon guillemots. Technically, there should be 0.5 of you for this ratio.
All right, thanks, Lee.
Because that was such a lovely talk, we're not going to get to play our game, but I'll just give you a little idea because you might be wondering why there's sticky notes all over the place. What we were going to do was put you in pods, some with grandmas that had information about where the best place to fish. So if you want to help me out right now and check under your seat so I don't have to do it afterwards, since we didn't get to play the game. So some of you might have gotten different fish under your seat. They're the sticky notes. So we can just, that's just going to be waste. There's nothing on them, but we were going to have you run around the room and try to get fish. With the grandmas knowing where to fish, the moms having a really good idea of which fish, because some fish, the yellow fish in this case, are not very nutritious and take more effort to actually pursue and catch than the whales would get from the food. And then there are different types. So thanks for helping me clean up. And we didn't get to play the game, but we were going to put you in pods with grandma and mom, mom and kids, mom and adults, and then just no mom and grandma and see who outcompeted and see if the model worked. But we'll just have to imagine it and move on.
Thanks, Lee.
Very last slide. So we're not going to do a game for this one because weather is dynamic, and I don't think we could have pulled it off. But what I did want to share, and Dave can give me his input, or Kelly, is if this QR code goes to the new AOS mobile site that gives you real-time weather for kind of puts all of the sources together if you don't want to just look at forecasts, but you want to start studying weather and seeing what's happening. So if you want to pull up the website that I gave you. And this is the mobile. There is also a desktop version, but I just found out last week that they made a mobile version. And there's 3 different ways to look through the information. It includes tides on it. It's not an app because you do need web service. You do still need Wi-Fi to get it. But there's tides on there. It has the National Weather Service forecasts. And then it also has all of the stations that are actually collecting data around the sound, so you can look at them in one spot. You can sort it by looking at a specific station and seeing what the pressure is there, what the wave height, what the wind speed, or you can look by parameters and see what all of the wind is doing at all of the stations throughout the sound on one page. So it's a slow site, as you can tell. But I did want to share that because that is new and it will work offline, except it won't update the information. So like if you go on a multi-day trip, it's not going to work out for you. But for one day, has anybody been able to pull it up on their phone? And it's pretty maneuverable. And then it is new, so please feel free to give feedback. The feedback that I'm going to give them is that it should probably match the weather service and be in feet and miles per hour as opposed to meters, because not all of us are great at converting that, considering where we live. But I don't think I'm going to attempt to simulate a storm in here. It's not going to happen today. And then I can't get up on here, but any questions for people that have it on their phones?
Put it back up.
I think they're trying to pull it up. Oh, put the QR code back up. Sure. Maybe it's because we're pulling that up, a mobile version on the desktop. So this gives you the real-time data. One person recommended to me, which I obviously have not done, that if I wanted to learn weather, was to look at the real-time data every single day and then see what's happening and keep track of it for over a year, and then theoretically I would be more adept at figuring out weather. So if you are dedicated, then it gives you a really easy way to look up everything in one place.
Last up, thank you, Leigh Lubin, for helping so much yesterday and for today from the Marine Education Specialist from Alaska Sea Grant.
Thank you. What a wonderful day, both outside and inside. So much great information. Thanks for staying. And while we're waiting for the slides to come up, because I do have some, as Tim said, my name is Leigh Lubin, and I'm the Marine Education Specialist for Alaska Sea Grant. And what I'm going to talk today is about emerging guide training that I've been working on. A little bit about me. I am from Suchit. Actually, that's the indigenous name that has recently, in 2022, been officially recognized for the town of Valdez. And today was the first time I saw the spelling of how to say it. I actually still haven't heard it officially said. But a little about me, you can see from the pictures that I really love being outside and playing outside, and that is what brought me to Alaska. I originally came to Alaska to guide in Denali National Park, and the park road was closed, so I flew into the park, not seeing any of the park, and about 9 days later or so, I took up my first guest, and of course they asked, how long have you been in Alaska? And I was like, 10 days, let's go. And so it's pretty common that people come up to Alaska to guide and have no background here at all. So the Guide Foundation's training that I've come up with, or am coming up with help with Heather Reese, is the natural history interpretation aspect that really focuses on the storytelling and immersive experiences. A cultural connections aspect that focuses on privileging Indigenous voices, and that's the piece that Heather Reese, who spoke yesterday, is heading up. And climate change for diverse audiences, because it's kind of hard to avoid talking about climate change in places like Alaska, but it's not necessarily easy to talk about when you're dealing with clients and people from all over the world with different belief systems. So these are guide needs that are pretty standard for most guiding operations. And hard skills, logistics, and safety are almost always addressed by the owners of the companies. But all these other components are left up a little bit in question. Depends really on the size of the company and the interests of the company. Some companies put a lot more effort into making sure that these question mark aspects are ticked off. So the challenges to why some things are left out of training is because a lot of people, as I mentioned, come up to guide seasonally. And so there's only 2 weeks that they have the guides before the guides get with the clients. Also that you have to pay the guides for all the training that you're doing. So companies may or may not have the ability to pay for that extra time. The companies may or may not have the skills to train. They may not be great in natural history. They may not be great in cultural perspectives. They may not be great about talking about climate change. And even if they are, it takes a long time to develop a training. And it also takes a lot to manage a business. So you kind of they gotta choose their battles there. And the current solutions, these are the ones that I got gifted with, are research on your own. So after you work 12 to 16 hours a day, why don't you go and look at guidebooks and figure it all out and take the information from things like, this has a 6-foot wingspan and it weighs this much, and turn it into something that's actually the way you do natural history interpretation. And then there's the classic learning from another guide, which is sometimes great and sometimes not. I know I learned a lot of false information, even from the owners of companies that I've worked for, that then I thought were fact and said for many, many years before I learned otherwise. So why Guide Foundations? So the courses come up from my own experience and then also from input from industry. So I did a few listening sessions, and basically when people are better trained, then they're better guides, which means that they will like their job better. They'll come back and we won't have to retrain guides every season. And then the clients are happier. And happier clients are happier guides. It's a positive feedback cycle, which makes everyone's day better. So this is the theme for the training. Interpretive stories and language create an immersive experience that unlocks narratives of the land and changes visitors from tourists to people, empowering them to connect, contribute, and craft their own compelling stories. I think everyone in here has been in Alaska long enough that if you say the word tourist, there's like some visceral feeling that happens, which is different than if you call someone a person. And we have all been tourists in other places, maybe not here, but. So the natural history component is set up of micro stories, and that's just like what it sounds like. It's little stories, because when you're guiding in an outdoor environment, it's not like you have a story that you can tell the same as you go along every day because our environment changes. So an example would be something like saying that sea otters have the densest fur in the world, or saying that sea otters' fur density is the reason that Alaska is part of the United States, and then linking that to Russian colonization and them depleting the fur sources in Alaska and thinking Alaska is worthless and so selling it for 2 cents an acre. So that takes a little fact and takes it into a story that hopefully provokes, relates, and reveals some information. Immersive techniques. Also, basically, we're changing facts into things that people can relate to. So if you hear otters eat 25% of their body weight every day, that means something. Saying what would it be like if you ate 16 large pizzas or 260 bowls of rice? If you were 150 pounds, means a lot more to people, because I can't quite imagine that. And both of these topics above give a sense of place to both the guide and to the visitors. And the natural history interpretation guide training will provide resources that model best practices. So part of the guide training is that in order to complete it and get your little micro badge, you need to submit a micro story. And then we'll collect those into a database so that when new guides come, they have a resource that's giving them information in the ways that are best to deliver it to other people, instead of trying to take it out of a scientific context. The whole aspect of the cultural connections is privileging Indigenous voices in the stories that are told. And this comes from Heather Reese's graduate studies work, and talking a lot about the impact of what guides say really affects the perception of what tourists think. And so imparting that into guides so that they feel a real impetus to include cultural perspectives. And giving some resources and education on ANGSA, ANILCA, history of boarding schools, and their impacts, so people feel comfortable talking about them. And probably the most important piece that I think of that Heather and I, and with input from lots of different Alaska Natives that have said that it works, as moving land acknowledgements beyond land acknowledgements. So giving a land acknowledgement at the beginning of a sea kayaking trip really doesn't set the right tone for the trip. It's a very, setting the tone for a guide is probably the biggest part of guiding, was how you started off. And so just instead of using Valdez as I introduced myself, saying, welcome to Suchit, the land where the land, I don't remember what it is because it's so new, sorry. And it's the end of the day, the brain is full. But giving a sense of place and then using Indigenous language throughout the day, or putting pieces in throughout the day so that it's not just a once and done, and it fits into the format of guiding, and making it not a separate thing, but part of where we are, and part of that the people that live here are part of the land and are part of the natural history. It's not a separate thing. And then discussing climate change, basically, because you have to. So it would be learning about diverse audiences, understanding basic science so that you have metaphors and analogies to talk about things, and also if someone asks a question after you say something, that you feel confident in giving an answer, which is a key part, and framing the conversation, so making sure that guides feel comfortable talking about the subject in a way that is accessible and not volatile for a wide majority of people. And I think everyone knows why I use the word volatile, because it can be a volatile subject. So building confidence and ability to redirect, because those conversations can sometimes go awry, and being able to gracefully bring it back to something that everyone feels like they can be on board with. That's my time. I'm not bad. So these are the 3 parts. I won't repeat them. And the timeline is the piloting the natural history and the cultural components. So Heather and I have both been working on this for a while now, and we're going to pilot it to 25 guides in Valdez next week. A nuts and bolts of just 4 hours in person. Because of that time limit, that's as much as we could get. And then it will move to an online format so that guides can do it before they get to Alaska or throughout the season. And the online format will be very interactive and engaging as well, because I can't really bring myself to make anything that isn't that. So there's, fortunately, technology's improved a lot, so there can be a lot of moving around and matching and not just reading online a textbook, because that's not learning, at least not for me. And then the next stage will be to develop the climate change model, which will be primarily online. I don't know if I'll pilot that part in person. The expected results are a growing natural history nuggets database that delivers resources that model best practice. So hopefully over the years, when new guides come, there'll just be tons of information that they could study in the way that they would want to deliver it. Privileging Indigenous voices, both through providing accessible resources. So not only do guides not have to just learn everything, and they have to learn everything, but they don't also have to find everything, because that's a whole other task besides learning it, finding it. And so resources and education. And with my Alaska Sea Grant hat, my bottom line is increasing public marine literacy and ongoing interest in and stewardship of marine ecosystems. So basically, if people have a really great experience on the ocean or in our coastal environments, then they're going to feel connected to the place. And the way that we get people into those great experiences is by making sure that the people guiding them have the skills and knowledge to do so. And if you want to get involved, you can, to provide input on the trainings, this is the QR code for a little Google Sheet to fill in your information. I already submitted a grant to expand this program to Southeast next year so that the resources are Southeast specific, because the whole training is designed so as they're learning immersive skills and all the guide skills, that they're learning it with Alaska, with Alaskan examples, so that they leave the training with nuggets that they can take directly to clients, and also using and promoting the resources as they go. And not too long, not 15 minutes, but if there's any questions, I'll take them, and if not, we'll let you flee outside where everyone wants to be. Or actually, that's not true, because Charlotte will close before you're allowed to flee. Awesome. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Leigh, and really looking forward to seeing that guide training in the next little bit. So at this point, I would like to ask you to take out your phones and take a moment to complete our participant survey. We have a few copies, hard copies of those floating around too, and I think some of you actually already have those because we don't have a lot of hard copies there. So if you have them, be sure that you return them to one of us before you go. If you'd like one, give us a wave over there. Barbara has some copies. Otherwise, go ahead and pop into the QR code there. Thank you. So thank you so much for taking a moment for that evaluation to give us some feedback. We really do value your feedback. That helps us keep getting better year to year. Now in our 6th annual symposium, 7th annual will be here before we know it, I'm sure. So I'd like to thank everybody for such a wonderful day. If you've been here for 2 days, thank you for being here with us this whole time. It takes a really great team to put on this event every year. Thanks to the Prince William Sound Natural History Symposium Planning Committee that's led by Paul Twardock, and includes Tim Lydon, Kelly Bender, Alex von Wickman, William Melton, Peter Denmark, Leigh Lubin, and Maya Draper-Reich. Thanks to the organizations that these individuals represent too, who contribute so much in staff time and resources and support. Thank you especially to the Chugach National Forest. It's such an honor and pleasure to work with you and be your partner. And to the Prince William Sound Regional Citizens Advisory Council and to Alaska Sea Grant. Thanks to William Melton Media Productions over here for your skilled technical work, which allows us to present this in hybrid format, to have great recordings that we host on the website that have become a really amazing free community resource. So if you haven't checked those out, princewilliamsound.org. Today's recordings and those from yesterday will be up there soon. This hybrid format also allows us to reach people all over Prince William Sound, all over the state of Alaska, the lower 48. We usually have some international viewers tune into. So thank you, everyone, for making this possible. Thanks to the Prince William Sound Stewardship Foundation Board. If anyone here could, yes, Paul, Doug, give a wave. William is our board chair. You saw folks at lunchtime too. If you have interest in getting more involved with the Stewardship Foundation, please see me or one of them. We'd love to talk to you more about that. And thank you to our sponsors, to the generosity of the Exxon Valdez Oil Spill Trustee Council and the Oil Spill Recovery Institute at the Prince William Sound Science Center. It's been great to have the watch party today too and get to check in with them. Thank you to our corporate sponsors and individual members. This really would not be possible without you. Thank you to the City of Whittier for the amazing hospitality. Thanks to our wonderful volunteers, especially Ellen and Barbara and Kathleen today, keeping everything going. And thank you to all of our speakers, and thanks to all of you. So as you're completing that survey, looking forward to reading what you have to say. At this point, we'll go ahead and close our 6th annual Prince William Sound Natural History Symposium. Thank you all so much for making it a really amazing couple days. And we look forward to seeing you next year and hope you have a healthy, clean, and wild summer. Thanks, everybody.